First time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KEEP in the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Cthulhu lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Cthulhu to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Whoa! We're recording. Whoa. Congratulations. Nash.
Hello,
welcome.
Hello.
This has been one of those that I've been meaning to do for like forever, but I haven't. So it's finally happening.
Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful Monday morning here, probably Sunday night for you. It's all good. Let's do this.
So for the folks who don't know who you are, can you just like briefly say like what you do and that kind of stuff? Because you do a lot of cool things.
Well, okay. My name is Nash Muhandes. In case you guys are wondering how that's pronounced, I'm 35, I think. I don't remember what my age is. So what do I do? I've been around the Doom community for a while. Started out making mods and stuff, and currently I am a part of the GZDoom development team and making some cool games with it.
So, first of all, like you are come from a completely different part of the world than I think any other guest that's ever been on here, including myself. So, what is like your perspective? How did you grow up?
So yeah, right. So I live in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Growing up here is it's a Southeast Asian country. We have a very different view of the world. Mostly, we see stuff on TV and radio, and that influences, I guess, a lot of how we see stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as video games go, we've got plenty of video games here. We are pretty much up to date with like technology, video games, movies, whatever. And yeah, that was how I was introduced to Doom back in the early 90s.
So you got into Doom. What was the transition from being a player to wanting to tinker with engines and such? How did that come about?
All right. So I was playing. I played a lot of video games, back in the 90s. It wasn't just Doom. I was playing, consoles, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, stuff like that. And then somewhere along the way, excuse me, in the mid 90s, I actually discovered an app on Windows called Click and Play. I think it's called. It's one of those game creation thingies where you can just sort of like it's a really janky game creation tool, and that was my first experience with game creation, and I had it was as a kid it was, I get so stoked like making my own games and stuff, and then eventually I found out that Doom source code was released. I think it was in 97 or so, and I downloaded that, and I had no idea what to do because I have not actually done like real programming. So I was like, what are all these text files? What do I do with this? So and then I kind of just left the whole game creation thing like for a while because I was focused. I was still in school, and I was actually growing up. I grew up to be more of like a musician. Actually, I had bands and stuff. In school, wrote my own music.
Same.
And actually, after school, I opened a recording studio. I was like, I think 18 at this time. I started a recording studio business locally. And it was also around the time where I think GZDoom came out, and so I haven't been playing Doom for a long time at that point. And then when I discovered GZDoom, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I just discovered that I could modify, like I could create like WADs and maps and stuff. And it was from there where I kind of just started tinkering, made a lot of silly mods. But one of the most famous of my mods that came out around the time I started, tinkering modding was Nash's Gore mod, which actually became the basis for Brutal Doom. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, so the Brutal Doom connection is actually how I know you, because I had invited Mark to Realms Deep. Obviously, like no brainer there, right? And then shortly thereafter, he's like, "Hey man, do you mind if I invite my friend?" I'm like, "I mean, who is your friend? What do they do?" And then he's like, "Oh, this guy." And then that's how you and I got connected the first time. So yeah, being part of Brutal Doom, holy shit, that's a thing. That's there's a lot that comes with that. It's not just what a cool thing you made, but also all of the other things that are attached to that. How do you feel? Are you okay?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, being young at first, of course, there was a bit of I guess, I wouldn't exactly say jealousy, but because I discovered at first that he didn't actually credit me for the stuff. So and then I was like, oh, and then people were like, oh, Mark didn't credit this guy and didn't credit that guy, and I kind of just, I didn't really pay much attention to the social aspects of it. But yeah, at first I was like, oh man, why didn't he credit me? But the thing is, I did not actually confront him about it. I was just like, whatever, it's a free mod, who cares? And then, of course, Brutal Doom got really big. And then, but as time went on, what I felt more was holy shit, my stuff. The code, sprites, whatever is being used in a shitload of, all these other mods. Brutal Doom, Brutal Doom got it became it gave birth to forks and stuff. And then there's all these other people using my stuff as well. And it's mind blowing to know that, I've pretty much left my footprints all over the Doom modding world, so to speak. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
Well, this we'll credit you here. This is it's in the Keep official now. Just to set the record straight, Nash did do that stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's preserved now for the world to listen to.
So, of all the things you could have done in terms of game dev, you seem to have gone down the programming route first. Is there a reason why that appealed to you, or was it a necessity?
It was a necessity because it is very difficult to get help, for especially, back in the day, I only had access to the Doom forum, and you don't really get real time help feedback. It's not like these days we have Discord and stuff, right? So I was forced to look up programming books and stuff, and I admit it was fun. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. You type stuff in this text editor, whatever, right? And then suddenly stuff happens on the screen. It's crazy. So yeah, I had a lot of fun, coding stuff, and then eventually, because all right. So initially, even before I did music, I was doing art as well. I could draw, stuff very badly, but I could do a bit of art. So, when I was making Nash's Gore mod, I'm like, oh, okay, so now I need to make sprites. I did rip some of the sprites from Blood and Duke Nukem 3D and stuff like that, but there were also some original sprites thrown in there, and so I slowly became this do everything sort of guy, So yeah, so I started with programming and then started doing art, and eventually I just did everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I took one JavaScript class, and then I took another Python class, and I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And here's what I learned. I learned that I'm never ever going to be a programmer. That will never be how I put bread on the table, that for sure. I just don't have that sort of a mind. And it also comes from I understand conceptually how things work. And I think that having those overviews were useful, especially from a production standpoint, just like having some appreciation for the pain that your partners are going through as they dredge through the trenches of programming for games, period. And that goes for all aspects of game dev. Like to have a little bit of a taste of everything, even if it's just rudimentary, is way better than being somebody who asks other people to do things that you completely don't understand. But I still feel that way about programming. So I didn't accomplish much other than learning that it's not for me.
Yeah, it definitely requires a very specific, way of thinking, I guess. Yeah, it's not for everyone, unfortunately. But just having an overview, I think, like you said, from a producer standpoint, it is good enough to just sort of understand this is not possible or that is possible and stuff like that. It's good to have a passing, a small understanding of it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, can you imagine being a music producer for like a rock band and you don't know how to play the guitar? Or like you've never even touched a guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but I absolutely have the utmost appreciation for it. But it is weird because I know a lot of people in Doom get into programming specifically because of it's a necessity, but Doom seems to make it fairly rudimentary and simple for someone to catch on. It's a good entry place. Same with like Quake C, similar thing where it's like
exactly.
You don't really have to have a lot of experience, but you can plug it in and have some fun with it.
And that is why I feel like these retro, Doom engine, Quake engine, why it still remains popular to these days, because the entry level to it is just so. It's so easy to just get started right away. It's great.
I also think there's not a huge barrier of entry technology wise. Like you don't have to have the world's nicest computer to work on a Doom mod. Like that's definitely got something to do with it. Not that you necessarily have to have the world's nicest computer for Unity or Unreal or any other engine, but in some cases it's like you can be too far in the past. So that really helps too.
Mm-hmm. I remember around 2020, there was this local. It's part of the global game jam, and so we had like a local meeting site for it, and I brought over a copy of it's basically a pen drive with GZDoom in it, and we nailed a full game in like 3 days, and as a testament to like just how easy it is to start creating stuff with Doom engines and stuff. Yeah, so that is definitely one of the reasons why because I started getting involved with the Doom engine, ZDoom, whatever, in 2001, and it's like 2021 now, so it's like 20 years, I think. Yeah, so that's why I'm still here 20 years later. It's so much fun.
So I have a few people who kind of wrote in questions for you. Some of our Patreon supporters or just people around the community. And since you're already talking about it, Immorpher was interested in whether or not GZDoom could support Quake BSP format, and that he elaborated on the question. So it would get ZScript materials and other features into Quake, basically replacing the old Dark Places engine, or perhaps a build engine format would do the same job. And he wants to know your opinion.
That is most likely not going to happen with the current development team, because we are spread very thin as is currently. So GZDoom for the foreseeable future will continue to just support Doom engine map formats, UDMF and stuff like that. We do kind of like bolt on like modern features like lighting and stuff like that, but it will largely remain just the Doom map format, unless someone comes in and adds some new map format or whatever. But currently there doesn't seem to be anyone who seems interested to do it. But yeah, it would be cool to one day support Quake BSP. I think I read on forum somewhere like someone wrote like a converter app, like converting Quake BSP into the Doom format. But I don't think that actually got anywhere. But yeah, it would be cool to see it someday. But currently, I don't think there are any plans for that. Unfortunately, sorry.
it's interesting. And it's something I think about a lot in the mod community, or the just people who are working on open source stuff for fun or whatever. No matter how invested in it they may be in their life, oftentimes, and especially with GZDoom, the answer to our questions is nobody feels like doing it, and that's something we just have to accept to some degree. But I'm always interested in the different dynamics between teams like this and teams that are, in my case, like if you're working on a commercial product with a team who are all being paid to do jobs and all that kind of thing, the dynamic is very different. So I'm curious, like, what's been your experience with 20 years of doing that?
So with the GZDoom development team, there's sort of like there's a lot of like unwritten rules. Like you kind of like okay, so normally this is how one starts out on the path of becoming a quote unquote GZDoom developer, right? So you start submitting like patches and stuff to the engine, like okay, so here's a bug fix, or here's a new feature, and you kind of keep doing this a few times, and eventually, these collective. This group of people will collectively decide, hey, this guy is good. Now, why don't we invite him into the team? And because from my experience, what I've seen is the various people who sort of hopped in and out of the dev team. Like there was no initiation right, like or whatever. Like you kind of just do stuff, and like we kind of just know how to work together, and just yeah, so it's kind of like just do, and then we'll just keep discussing stuff, and that's how it goes. Basically you just do, and unfortunately that also the problem is that since we nobody's paid and stuff, everyone's like kind of like on their own schedule, and I feel like doing it, I'll do it, and then if I don't, I just don't do it, and yeah, it's it's a bit strange, but after a while, you kind of sort of get it, like the whole, I guess, responsibility thing, like, yeah, it just comes with time and practice. You just do this stuff, and eventually you just sort of get it. Yeah. So that's kind of the dynamics, and also for those who don't know, basically GZDoom is just it's led by one person, Graf Zal. So ultimately, of course, he has the final say, but but normally he's cool if you like sort of like let's say you submit a feature or a patch. Like recently, I submitted like a few big features, like baked light maps and stuff like that. So if you submit it in a way that you explain to him, like, okay, this is good for the engine, and then he will actually sort of like listen to you, and it can actually be a very calm and productive discussion. So as long as you do the work for him, basically.
That is,
yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic all the way around. But there's a certain degree of people demanding things of you guys, or politely asking in some cases, and then not getting what they want, and then acting like you owe it to them. Right. And sometimes it bothers me, the language that people use about it, and not just the GZDoom team, but for instance, I'm one of the biggest whiners and complainers about, remember in Zandronum how they had the cheating problem. And so the solution to that problem was to get rid of the user interface for people who are watching. So as a person casting a tournament, right, like it makes it very difficult to commentate about the strategy of what's going on when you don't even know what the health bar is, what the armor is, what the weapons are. Like, it's so it's just not ideal. And on one hand, I can bitch and moan and complain all day long, but on the other hand, it's like, what am I gonna, if somebody's doing something for free, I'm gonna like walk up in their yard and demand that they do it when they don't feel like it? Like, that's dumb. So
yeah, and like for me, so far my experience is the stuff that I add into the engine is stuff that like I feel like it's a popular feature, so normally I have not had like any extreme cases of people like demanding stuff and being a bitch about it so far yet, but I can see how I guess some other people, the way they demand stuff in GZDoom, and if they don't get it, they sort of throw a tantrum and stuff, and Yeah, it can be a bit uncomfortable sometimes, but it's at the end of the day, it's all fun and good as long as you just step away from the computer. You don't take stuff personally. I think it's manageable. I think.
So I will say that since this new wave of people using GZDoom to make commercial games has kind of come about, does the responsibility shift? Does the team take a different way of looking at the potential of what they're doing, or the I should say the does I'm just going to ask the question right now because it applies to me. Does the fact that Stellar Valkyrie or Age of Hell or something like that is in this engine change your guys' perspective about what you're doing at all?
For the most part, no. But
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm unsure if I should actually I'm allowed to divulge this information. I guess it's okay. So there was some internal discussion, right, about how like the realization that for lack of a better word, other people are making money off the using the engine, right? So the internal discussion was that should we so let's say someone submits like a feature request, right? And then if we are made aware that the reason this person is actually making a commercial game, so and then the internal discussion was, should we should we add the feature because we're not making any money off it, and then this person is profit sharing off it. And there have been internal discussions, but ultimately everyone was just like whatever. I think the consensus was that let people ask for what they want. If they want it badly, I'm sure they will PM one of us and offer like a commission or whatever. So yeah, so basically we don't really make any big issue out of it. It's just that we kind of just okay, if we know that it's for a commercial project, we kind of just take our time with it, unless it's super easy to add and then we just go add it, whatever. But otherwise we don't really treat any feature requests with any urgency or anything. But as far as changing things, no, it doesn't really change anything. In fact, Graf himself was pretty stoked to hear about all these commercial projects, and I think some of us won't say names, but some of GZDoom game devs have actually approached or have even commissioned Graf to add certain bespoke engine features for their game. Yeah, I'm aware of that. There has been dealings going on behind the scenes, so to speak.
I don't currently know of the. I don't know them all, but I mean, a pretty substantial amount of the people who are making games in the GZDoom engine that are going to be sold for profit. I can't think of a single one of them that wouldn't be more than happy to pay for a feature, or to donate to a community Patreon or whatever that just keeps you guys motivated, or to buy, a front ticket, a front row ticket in the line to get something done if it's a time pressing matter. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't do that. That's totally up to you guys. But like I'm saying, if we're using Unity, we're going to have to pay for it at some point. If we're using Unreal, we're definitely going to have to pay for it at some point. So I don't feel like we should be exploiting the fact that you guys are so goddamn generous. If that's your wish, we're happy to do shit for free. But and I guess there's a legal question with id too, right? Or with Bethesda / Microsoft now.
Yeah, that is actually a legitimate a concern, the legalities of it. But and to be honest, I don't really know. I don't have a clear answer in that. Because things are so small scale, currently, money wise, that I don't think this would really bring up any flags or anything. So far, there hasn't been a really huge incident, so I can't really say what is the future of that. Are we even allowed to do that or not? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I said the same thing to Mifu, from TSPG when he was on, but like the fact that you guys do what you do out of the generosity of your hearts and don't ask anything for it, even though actually TSPG does have a Patreon that I think gets you some perks. But at the end of the day, like people who are just doing stuff because out of their kindness of their hearts, they want to, and then other people are able to dramatically improve the quality of their lives as a result, which sounds kind of extreme when you're talking about, an old video game engine, but in reality, it's like, yeah, Stellar Valkyrie is changing people's lives, even if it's not like $1 million game, and it won't be, I'm sure. But the fact that I have this opportunity to work on such a cool project with people that I really care about, and then there's some semblance of hope that we can, make it worth our time, is huge. And I know that applies to several other teams. Like imagine where Bridgeburner or someone like him would be with everything that he does if GZDoom wasn't wildly available the way that it is now, and all the community support and all the amazing people around it. It's really awesome, man. Like it's really cool that you guys do that.
It's awesome. I think, people don't give enough, I guess, credit or acknowledgement to just how enriching, like stuff like, GZDoom, even in the other engines, and like how much these things mean to people's lives. And even like speaking for myself, basically, I am pretty sure I dedicate my 70% of my life to, Doom engines these days. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, think about it this way, because even if it were just the few hundreds of people who are, in the Discord servers that we share, not to mention all of the other people who use the engine or just play their Doom mods and have a good time, like Icarus, somebody like him who's out there, as far as I know, making a killing on YouTube, basically just talking about stuff that people make for this engine that you guys work on. I mean, if you were a church, right? If GZDoom were a church and you were like a deacon at that church or something, and this was your your following, I mean, you'd be a pretty goddamn oh man, I probably shouldn't say these in the same sentence. Period. Successful religious group or something, and it's pretty amazing. Like people would be very proud if they had a hall, of people who came and visited and were part of their community, the size of what you guys have built. Just saying. It's
definitely. But one thing, just thinking about stuff, like I feel like I kind of feel selfish sometimes, because like the majority of, like, speaking for myself, the majority of the work that I put into GZDoom is mostly motivated by needs of my own games. Like recently, I recently implemented Quake style baked lighting. People have been asking for that stuff like a long time. And so I was making like this Quake clone, and then I'm like, oh, I want to add light maps and stuff, and so I added, and then it's there, and then there's all these other features that But at the same time, I feel like I know that there are other people, developers out there who would enjoy this stuff, so that sort of motivates me as well. But I would be lying if like I said, it's if I don't. I feel like a bit selfish sometimes, because I'm just doing stuff that interests me. So yeah, I don't know what really people think about that sometimes, to be honest, because I'm like I feel a little bit insecure that like. I know this is probably not the case, but I have this insecurity that I know is at the back of someone's mind. People will think, oh, is Nash like treating the GZDoom like it's a personal toy or something, But yeah, it's that's my thought process, sometimes when I do stuff. But it doesn't really bother me, but I do think about it sometimes.
And the fact that anyone feels like you shouldn't do that is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Like, I mean, you're doing it again for free. So like if it's just something that you want to do, like, and pop in and make your own Quake style lighting or whatever the fuck, like who's to say you shouldn't do that? If it benefits you and it benefits other people, like where is the room to complain? I don't see where that is. It's so funny how
Exactly.
people quickly seem to almost like an entitlement, that you owe them something. I think I said that earlier, and you don't owe them shit except for like, hey, thanks for using our shit. If you don't like it, go use something else.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think was like the first GZDoom project that like opened up a door for you? Like you were like, wow, I can't believe that that's possible. Brutal Doom exempt because you worked on it.
Quote unquote worked on it.
Well, you did some shit that got used
for it. True.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, what are the? Can it be like you mean other people's mods that I played or like maps or whatever? Is that what?
I mean, like historically, when was it like a surprise to you how much someone had done? Like how amazing
it was actually
used all this stuff.
Actually, it was one of I think it was Scuba Steve's Action Doom. I think that was Action Doom, definitely that was the one. I played that and I was like, holy shit! I can't believe this is the Doom engine, and it just blew my mind. Like because my experience with playing like Doom mods and stuff has been limited to like, here's a bunch of new levels, and like, maybe here's like a reskinned weapon or whatever. But when I played Action Doom, it practically felt like a different game totally, and that also made me realize that holy shit, people could actually use this to like make original like non-Doom style games. And then also back in the day, there was this other mod. Oh god, I can't remember the name. I think it was Forevermore, Foreverhood. I don't know. It was just like a walking simulator kind of thing with like totally original graphics, and I don't think it was ever finished. But that was the other one. When I played this, I was like, I kind of like went to myself like, holy shit, someone is totally gonna start making like like commercial games with this engine one day, and yeah, it did happen.
I think Total Chaos like just absolutely melted my brain when I saw
Total Chaos is so awesome.
Especially for like how after how long it took for it to get out there. I was lucky enough to like not even know that it existed until it was pretty much in a complete state. But wow, I mean, oh my god, Sam Preble, and he's working on Turbo Overkill now. But like
Turbo Overkill,
my mind was just absolutely just decimated. I couldn't believe it when I played that game for the first time. Or even just seeing what he was able to do with that engine was, so sexy.
If you're just looking at like screenshots of Total Chaos, you wouldn't even know it's like a Doom engine or whatever. Like you just like it just looks like some kind of like a horror game. You don't even associate Doom engine with it until you start reading like the text file or whatever, and you find out it's actually running on a Doom engine, and it blew my mind as well. It's amazing. Waterholic is crazy.
Yeah, man, he's fucking such a nice guy too. I need to get him back on the show now that because he's publishing Turbo Overkill with Apogee now, which is really interesting.
Very nice.
We were going to show it off at Realms Deep last summer, but I think that they wanted to wait and announce it at like PAX shortly thereafter, so we didn't get to. But man, what a nice guy, and so talented. Like he's also done a lot of like film and animation stuff that he doesn't really talk about. And man of many, he's got a utility belt on him like Batman. Let's put it that way.
I think it's more common these days, like for indie devs to kind of like do a bit of everything, because like there's just so much talented people, and it's crazy. Like sometimes I do admit it feels like a bit it feels a bit daunting to like sort of like keep pushing like yourself to like do all these things, but it's inspiring, and I'd rather be doing this stuff than just like sleep or whatever. It's cool.
So what was the first actual commercial Doom or GZDoom engine game? Was it Hedon, or was there something before that?
There was actually this a game that I don't think many have heard of. It's called a Forest Tale, I think.
Forest.
And it's actually not a first-person shooter.
What is it?
It is actually like a it's like sort of like a side-scrolling like a Jazz Jackrabbit-y kind of. No, not Jazz. It's more like I would say Mario plus Sonic. It's actually a platformer made in a Doom engine, and that was actually the first, as far as I'm aware, that is the first actually like a GZDoom game that got on Steam. Because back then, before GZDoom was able to be commercially exploitable, because originally the engine was released under some a bunch of licenses that forbade like you couldn't sell games with it, and then so what I did was I made a fork of the GZDoom engine called GZDoom GPL. So I basically just removed all the like copyright infringing stuff. And I was made aware of this Forest Tale game because the dev got in touch with me, like asking technical questions and stuff. So I checked it out and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. It's a platformer, you wouldn't even think it's made on the Doom engine. So that was actually the first game that got on Steam. And then I think Hedon followed suit after that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I didn't know about that one. That's it's good that you brought it up. Maybe some people will go grab it and try it out. But Forest Tale, I'll keep that in mind. But Hedon was it literally just opened my mind. Like I saw money. I was like Vince McMahon, like as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, oh, money. Like I became Mr. Krabs for just a second. And then I was like, okay, we have to come up with a way to like do this. And now, I mean, what's the one Hyperstrange is publishing?
Oh god, oh good lord, I can't remember the name.
We're both gonna sound like a couple of jackasses if I don't look it up at least. So I'll do that now. Let's see.
Yeah, please look it up and edit the awkward silence.
Oh no, we'll leave it in. It'll be like, let's see, Hyperstrange. Do. It is Supplice. I don't know why that didn't immediately come to mind. It's probably not the first time that I've brought it up and forgot. So like that, like objectively speaking, I think that is the commercial Doom mod right now with the most financial support behind it that I'm aware of. That's going to be pretty cool to see how people react in that context, because it'll come out, I think, after Postal Brain Damage has come out. They already have Jupiter Hell in circulation. I think people really liked Crossbow Blood Knight. And they have a lot of different types of games, though. It's not all first-person shooters, so that may capture an audience that they are able to reach through their network that has been otherwise untapped up to now. So I'm really interested in following along with that.
Supplies has been in development for so long. I remember when it was just a bunch of maps, like it was just a Doom map pack. Mechadon, the mapper, like it's been going on for ages, and I'm just so stoked to see it turn into this full game, and being published by Hyperstrange and stuff. Now it's crazy, dude. It's super crazy. I'm not going to even say it's like a bad thing. I was just very surprised by the design choice not to have jumping in it. Which, okay, cool. Like it comes from Doom, and that's the way you play Doom, and I get that. But what a ballsy move in this day and age, really. It's very ballsy, yeah. But I guess due to, I don't know. I'm just probably just speculating, whatever. I haven't really talked to Mech about this, but I think due to the legacy nature of the maps and stuff, probably because the maps were originally designed for, Doom ports, with no jumping. So it'll probably be a lot of work to rework the maps to add jumping elements. So I guess they kind of just roll with it, but I don't know. I'm probably just talking out of my ass here.
I don't know. I mean, it's also possible that they never really envisioned it as being a commercial product, and then the opportunity came, and it's well, we've made this design choice a long time ago, and I'll have to ask them. I'll have to get somebody from over there on and really
Yeah.
talk about that one. I need to talk to Wojtek again. It's been a little while since he's been on the show, and he's such an amazing guy. Like, just the passion that he actually carries for Hyperstrange is wild. And I feel the same way about In the Keep, but when you really know someone like well enough to be like, oh, he's like, this is his life. This is not just a business to him. Like, he loves games. And you can't say that about every person in charge of a major gaming studio or major upcoming gaming studio.
That's true, especially in this current day and age.
Yeah, it's kind of wild when you, because I think we grew up with that, especially, you know, if you came up during the 90s and all the cool Rockstar game devs were basically entrepreneurs. They were like starting their own businesses, and like that was the culture. You knew who was at the top of id Software. Nowadays, it's like, even if you know the people who are making decisions at the studio level, there's a publishing company atop that, you know, we don't know what's all going on, what their decisions are. And then in id's case, now it's like not only Bethesda, but also Microsoft on top of that. Like, you have to wonder what the influence is. So it's a bit different. It's a bit of a different dynamic for the consumer, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like this is also why you know, like consumers like prefer to support like indie developers, because like I guess there's a certain kind of transparency there, you know, like it's, you at least know, you know, the other person is somewhat reachable, whereas if it's like, you know, these big companies, like you're pretty much talking to a wall as far as feedback goes, I guess.
Yeah, like think about how much feedback and like requests and stuff that comes in on GZDoom stuff that you deal with, and then think about what that feels like to, I don't know, Rockstar, you know, like something insane. How could you possibly deal with that many ravenous people?
Even if you hired like 500 community managers or whatever, I don't think it's just not gonna it's not gonna translate.
It's a wave of chaos. It's like the Beatles when like they had to quit touring because the crowd was so loud that you couldn't hear their amps over the crowd.
Oh, I remember that story.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
So I think we briefly brought this up, but you guys did that like make a Quake clone thing. Can you elaborate a bit?
Oh yeah,
more for the uneducated.
So it was something that I have been discussing on Discord actually for a few years now, like because you know I like to do stuff like I like to I don't know if this is like the correct term for it, but like I like to like sort of like make shitpost mods, where it's like in like short term, you know, like stupid rubbish, you know, like just for fun, you know. And somewhere along the line, I was like, hey, what if I made like a full, you know, like Quake style game in Doom, and like I limit myself to 10 days, you know. And so I kept talking about it for a few years, and eventually I got around to doing it last year in August. So, because, you know, around the time, you know, there was a lot of these videos on YouTube, like, you know, oh, I made a Diablo clone in Unreal in like, you know, 2 weeks, or, you know, I made Cyberpunk in 5 days or whatever, you know, like all these videos, you know. So I was like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this Quake clone in 10 days thing. So I did. And, you know, this scope got cut, of course, because, you know, I totally underestimated the amount of work needed. I shouldn't have announced 10 days. It should have been like 2 weeks or whatever. But so it was done. You know, I shipped it out, and the feedback was very good. So so actually around the time, this was actually shortly after Realms Deep last year, right? So I actually announced another game on RD last year. Which was it was called Darkadia. It was like this horror style, you know, Silent Hill style game. So I got burned out by working on that. So that was where I like, okay, let's make another game, right? So I made the Quake clone thing. And then it got very good feedback. It kind of got like popular, I guess. So, and slowly I kind of started like shifting my focus towards that game now. So now like I'm working more on the Quake clone thing than Arcadia. which is crazy. So the way I set up my GZDoom projects, right, is like all of these games share like a common, like a code base, like player movement, weapon systems, whatever. So if I work on one game, the progress could just carry over to all these other games, like which is just a few clicks. So I have been working on Darkadia as well, but I think I'm spending more time on this Quake clone, which is called Disdain, by the way. So I spent more time on Disdain, and I was showing off the light maps. But light maps basically make Doom Engine's lighting look like Quake, with shadows and all that stuff. So I've been working on that more, and if there's gonna be a Realms Deep this year, I don't know. Fingers crossed. I'm most likely gonna want to show Disdain. So I'm pretty stoked about that, actually. If anyone's following on my Twitter, you might have noticed that I've been posting a lot of Disdain progress. So yeah, so Disdain is currently my I'm doing it full time, so it'll still retain the original like Quake sort of like fast movement and weapons and stuff, but it's also gonna be more like a build engine like Blood, and stuff. There will be build engine game influences in it as well, so we'll see how that goes.
Man, I'm looking at hellforgestudios.com, which is a really wonderful site. I think I know the guy who made it.
Nabe is his name, I think.
I definitely, yeah, it's Nabe is in the Keep's web guy. He does in the keep.com as well. So when Bridgeburner was interested in getting a site together pre-Realms Deep last year, I was like, you got to talk to Nabe, bro. He's the best, the absolute best. But yeah, I should have brought it up when we were talking about Total Chaos, but it's like kind of not the same kind of game, but like visually also extremely striking, and like one of those that I think catches people like, oh shit, when you say this is the Doom engine. Which is really nice. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that you're kind of not putting all your time on that. I think it's still officially like to be determined, when it's going to come out. So no pressure, but I do want to play that at some point, man.
Yeah.
So hurry up.
I was actually slated to show Disdain last year. I think Bridgeburner was doing his end year stream, but I kind of like ran out of time to polish it, so I wasn't really able to show it. There was going to be a demo out at the time, so I told Bridge let me take my time on this. But I definitely think like the demo will be ready in like a few months. Famous last words. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Soon TM, and leave it at that, I guess. But I mean, if you want to, like, can we elaborate a little bit more on like Darkadia and who all's working on it and what to expect?
All right. So going back to Darkadia, Darkadia originally started out as a walking simulator. Because I wanted to make one of those, like those short style horror adventures, and like where there's no combat and stuff. So it started out that way, and then I think around the time Resident Evil 8 came out, and I saw the combat in Resident Evil 8, and I was like, okay, we got to add combat. So, and of course, it's obviously Silent Hill inspired. I play a lot of Silent Hill, so I'm like super into like everything about the design of Silent Hill, like the sound design, the art direction, and stuff like that. Darkadia is a solo project. There's no one else working on it. It's just me doing everything. But because like my current attention is focused on Disdain, I've decided to shorten the scope of Darkadia, and there might be a possibility that it might go back to being like a minimal combat thing. So and then also on the side, this is I guess classified, not so classified information, I guess. I've been working on and off with a fellow ex GZDoom programmer, right? He's not in the team now, but he was before. To add like a real time lighting and shadows, like sort of like Doom 3, like when you hold a flashlight and you move around and you see these shadows moving around, right? So we've been looking at, like trying to add that stuff. So Darkadia, I probably won't announce much about Darkadia until we get those those real-time shadows in. So that's gonna take some time, but rest assured, when it does, I'm definitely gonna make a lot of noise about it on my social media.
Man, there you're mentioning all these like wonderful like games. There was like such a golden era of Resident Evil when it first came out. The first 3 of them were very alike, and then like Dino Crisis, and then especially the Silent Hill franchise. Like Silent Hill 2 still to this day is like one of the GOATs as far as I'm concerned.
It's the best.
Yeah, and so like the prospect of having someone create something very similar to that in this day and age is, I think there's a lot of nostalgia points to be won. I mean, like I have a Resident Evil tattoo. I have the Umbrella Corporation logo. Like, that's how much I fucking care about it.
Sick.
And that's coming from someone like I have not played 8 at all, so I don't know. And not that I'm against playing it. I just like it's not been my number one priority. But the classics, Resident Evil 4 being like in my opinion the best, are so close to my heart. But Resident Evil 4 is like technically nothing like what you're talking about.
No. Darkadia will definitely be more like exploration based, like solving puzzles, and sound design and stuff like that. And especially because as I said, I'm also a musician, and I look up a lot to like Akira Yamaoka's music and Silent Hill. So yeah, that is it's a fun project to work on because I get to do all these things that I like in a single thing. So yeah, it's fun all around.
So I'm assuming that the scope of Disdain having been increased dramatically is like can you elaborate on like what more to expect, because all we know, or at least that I know, is that it's a Quake clone. It started off as a Quake clone, and then like that's the end of the story for me.
So what my tentative plan is that right, so obviously the scope of Disdain is increased, right? To save myself from from dying, I guess. my plan is that I would develop like enough of the like base assets and gameplay, like monsters, weapons, whatever. And like basically I provide like a toolkit, textures, whatever, and then I'll start hiring like mappers to help me build the levels, because there's no way in hell am I gonna work on 2 of these games at the same time, So that is my sort of my tentative plan. Like I would develop Disdain up to a certain point where there's like a base, SDK so called, and then I'll be there'll be like a call for mappers and they help me, finish the game. And then from then on, I sort of like go on like an overseer kind of role in it, where I just oversee the map creation process. And then I would personally go back to Darkadia and actually finish it, because level design wise, Darkadia, I feel like it's much more basic, because it's basic. I've determined that the entire game is going to be like just inside a house, so house style rooms, maps are much easier to build, because I'm not much of a level designer, to be honest, but I can manage like like rooms by myself. But if it's gonna be like full on like Quake style levels and like in Disdain, I'm definitely gonna hire mappers when I have the base assets ready for it. So that is the plan.
And that's going to be on Steam and other places where people can buy it and such. Like
yes.
Can you put a timeline on that? Like when can we
usual
it?
No timeline, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But I've I've been talking to Bridge. I've been keeping Bridge, up to date with whatever events that he planned to do this year, and Disdain is definitely going to be on one of Hellforge's, like events ASAP. Of working on the clock, so to speak.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be really, really cool, man. Oh yeah, it's kind of crazy how we like so much got announced for Hellforge at Realms Deep. Really, and, like a lot of it was like kind of already there, but like there wasn't, there weren't official trailers and all this stuff. But We're coming up on about a year since then, and I think it's going to be really exciting to see some of these like really hit the market. I mean, Age of Hell is the demo is available to folks and all that, but the when all of these when the payoff, I guess, comes, it's going to be like a really wild time. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out.
It is going to be fucking wild. There's going to be an explosion of all these games in like Age of Hell, Sulaco.
Yeah.
Holy shit, supplies, like, oh my
Beyond
God,
Sunset,
I'm going to need a lot
Beyond
of time
Sunset.
to play all these stuff. Beyond Sunset. Exactly. Holy shit.
Like,
dude, that's crazy.
That game has got me by the balls. Like, Doom, okay, check. I like that. All right. System Shock, yes, I like that also. Ghost Runner, yeah, I love Ghost Runner. Like, okay, we'll put them all in one. Oh, fuck yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh man, I'm so stoked. But what else? What else? I forget like everything that's being worked on over there. Let's see. Relentless Frontier also.
Yes, RF, Relentless Frontier.
Exercise.
There was also this
Messiah.
one. Exercise Messiah. There was this one game. I forget the name. It's kind of like it looks like a BioShock kind of thing, with like flesh levels. I think it's called. It's Deluge. Is that how you pronounce it?
Deluge. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that one looks crazy as well. Yeah, so much stuff to play when all of this stuff is out. People like Icarus and whatever, they're gonna have a hard time to stream all of this stuff.
I thought Deluge was an Olympic sports simulator. I've been wrong this whole time. Sorry.
That was so random.
Sorry. And then there's also like the way that it's all divided up. Like there are the Hellslinger. Hellslinger got announced recently too.
Hellslinger, yeah.
Yeah, but so like there are all these commercial products, but like also the mods and stuff that are kind of attached to, I guess, the Doom Forge is the word he's using. But yeah.
Yeah.
So good for you, man. Getting in on the ground floor.
Yeah. It's truth be told, it's just so much fun. I think, I see myself doing this for at least another 10 years, I think.
Retiring at 45 or?
I don't know when I'll retire, but I think the juice will still be here like in 10 years. Like I would still be making like, Doom engine based games. It's just so much fun. I do dabble with Unity, Unreal and stuff like that, but it's just not the same, man. Like, the simplicity of the Doom engine is just unmatched. It's unrivaled. It's crazy.
As a producer, I much prefer working with Unity. Not that that's a slight against Doom. It's just like at the end of the day, it's like every discussion can't be about, we can't do that until we write Nash and wait for him to need that also in one of his games. So.
True. Well, to be honest, this is actually one advice that I myself even give people. Like, if you ever have a plan to like go really, really big, we're talking about like console, deploying on consoles and stuff like that. Do not use GZDoom. Stay the fuck away from GZDoom, because you will find yourself running into so many limitations and you will end up being frustrated.
Yeah. I was telling, we had a Stellar Valkyrie like all call stand up meeting the other day, just to, everybody's catching up, making sure we're all on the same page. And one of the things that I brought up is like, we have to like, this is early on. We're like, we're just defining the scope and we're sticking to it. Like, we're not waiting for new shit, or we're not, going to try to reinvent the wheel here. We're not making total chaos. We're making the game that we're making. And Chris, who is the writer, along with basically he and I are the writing team, and then he's also the voice of Falco. And he and I basically like maybe not every week, but like as much as we can when schedules line up, get together and have like our brainstorming and writing sessions. And nearly every time I was telling Uber, I'm like, about 30% of the conversation is he has this amazing idea, and then I have to explain to him why it's not possible. It's like, it's not going to happen. Just let me know. Like, and it's adorable. I love Chris so much, but like, I can't keep doing this.
Poor guy. Yeah,
because he comes from like commercial, like AAA world. Like that's what he thinks about when he thinks about video games, right?
Yeah. And I can understand, like, especially like if you're not in the know in terms of like Doom engine, stuff. It does get very absurd sometimes. Like, oh, why can't I do this or that? And then like I could do this very easily in another engines, And I think one thing that people need to understand is that GZDoom is first and foremost a Doom engine. Like it plays, the original Doom, and original Doom comes with all these, janky limitations and stuff. So, and of course, someone could just go in and like change, like do big fundamental changes to the engine, but then it wouldn't play Doom anymore. The original Doom games, it'll be a completely different engine. And by that point, you put in so much work, you might as well just start off with Unity or Unreal, or whatever, So,
yeah.
So that's why I keep telling people, like, if you, depending on the scope, if all you want to make is a simple retro shooter, and you don't mind it being on PC only, or in recent times, Steam Deck, if you don't care about console, Switch, just you can use GZDoom, but otherwise, you're better off just looking elsewhere. To be honest, because you'll just be so frustrated about things that you can't do. Yeah.
I had really got excited there for a minute because I believe, was it Alex Max from Night Dive Studios, right? Had done some work to help bring, Doom to the Switch and, consoles when Bethesda was doing that thing, a couple of years ago during QuakeCon, I believe is when it was all kind of put out there. And I had hoped that would open up the door for conversation. Like, are they gonna start licensing this stuff, or is it going to be progress? Are they going to reach out to the GZDoom team and maybe like do some real business here? Because I mean, I don't necessarily dislike the way that things have worked thus far, where, all right, we got the source code and then we do whatever you want and we don't really hear anything about it, and that's fine. But as a businessman here, if I had the ability to port Stellar Valkyrie to the Nintendo Switch, I'd bet your fucking bottom dollar I would. Like, holy crap, I would absolutely I'd jump out of my seat. We're talking like quintupling the amount of money you can make off of something. And not that it's all about money, it's about passion, or else I'd, be doing something else. But the more money that Uber can make and Scumhead can make and Ben can make and Chris can make is like better for me. That's better for everyone. So I'd kind of hope there would be some progress there.
And it's not just about the money; it's also about the satisfaction of seeing that thing run on PS4 or Switch or whatever, right? So it's. But I think
you can reach more people. Period. More people would play our games. That's what I'm trying to say. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the issues about that is there's some licensing shenanigans going on. Like, I think. Like, okay, again, I'm not a lawyer, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But I believe it has something to do with so GZDoom contains code by like various people, right, over the years, 20 years or whatever. Some of these people aren't even alive anymore. So I think like if you wanted to like port to consoles and stuff, like first you need to get permission from all these people, which is of course impossible. And then
it's not impossible. Kane did it with Warforged, man. When he got a hold of Warforged, I think he successfully tracked down every single person who'd contributed to that engine over God knows how many years. The Q Fusion engine is no small feat in itself. It's just like not as used, I should say, as what you guys are doing. But
what about the people who aren't alive anymore?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to talk to their spouses or their estate, but it's not impossible.
For sure. Yeah, you have a point there. Yeah, I can see like something like super large scope, like Sulaco probably pursuing something like that, or maybe just writing to ZeniMax or Microsoft, Bethesda, whatever, and just like hey, making an exception for us. So because Sulaco is big,
Yeah.
I can see something like that happening for something as large scale as that.
It's also like from a okay, like look at Wrath, but really Graven I would say is more interesting because of the the mappers that they're able to tap into by being able to take Trench Broom stuff and put it into Unity, right? Like if there was something similar, like if you could go Doom Builder, Ultimate Doom Builder to Unity or something like that, it would be this huge. Immediately, your market for amazing level designers goes from very small to near infinite, right? And that's super interesting.
Exactly. Have there not been like all these like WAD loader stuff in the marketplace? I don't follow too closely, but
I mean,
I think there should be more of those. Yeah. Because most of these projects, like they kind of come up with like they're bespoke tools and whatever, and understandably they don't really like put them out there because I either it's like for internal usage and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there'll be a huge market for this stuff. Like just put up WAD loaders or whatever in Unity or Unreal Marketplace. It's gonna sell like hotcakes.
It's just it would be so amazing, and people would. Like I said, like I'm just thinking of off the like top of my head, I could name like 10 incredible level designers who would immediately get jobs, like getting big money paid by a bunch of different studios who would love to have them on board if they could work in the engine that is preferred by the studio or by the producer. Let's see. Time for another fan question though. Let's see.
Sure.
Nave wants to know, do you often get the Nash Bridges reference?
Nash Bridges, unfortunately, no. Nash Bridges is not very familiar, like locally here, so obviously there's no chance for that there. But even online, surprisingly, no.
That show's
it's
like
weird.
25
Maybe
years old now
should...
or something.
Exactly, it's ancient. Yeah. But
old too.
This is your opportunity to like to do more of those references.
Nah, I wasn't a fan of that show. I mean, I was maybe 4 years old when it came out, so I missed that totally. I have no idea whether it was good or bad or whatever. I did see the Eddie Murphy movie Pluto Nash, which is why I named our recording session Pluto Nash.
Yeah, I saw that. Gave me a good chuckle there for sure.
But that movie's terrible, by the way. It's like one of the most like just cringily bad sci-fi movies ever made. It's go watch it.
Oh God,
yeah. But how did you end up with that name? Like, is that just is that a normal name where you live there, or because Nash it seems like a pretty Western name?
It's a nickname given to me by my late dad. It's actually not a common name. No. It's just a nickname that my dad gave me when I was small and just stuck. I often do wonder a lot actually, like why Nash, but I'm not really able to ask him, and my mom doesn't know either. So
I guess we'll never know. But
no, we won't.
It's one of those names that like I guess people just associate with TV. I mean, they're like, I didn't see that show, but like apparently a lot of people when they hear that name immediately, like Nash Bridges is the first thing that comes up. So, having a name associated with fame, like if your name was Leonardo DiCaprio, I guess like people would be like, what? It helps. It's not easily forgotten, I guess.
Yeah. And, but another thing that I get like a lot is like, when I say like, hey, I'm Nash, and people will be like, oh, Nashville, or Kevin Nash, and I
forgot about Kevin Nash. Yeah. Oh my God. Big Papa Pump.
Yeah.
No, that was Scott Steiner. What's his name? Big Sexy Diesel. Kevin Nash. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, now you just gotta start going about Big Sexy
here.
Hey, my name's Diesel.
Voice.
Oh my God. Kevin Nash. Now we got to get Kevin Nash on the podcast and ask him about the Montreal screw job or something. Like,
Got your work cut out for you.
are you? Is wrestling big there?
It is. It is very big
Okay.
here. So when I was in school, right? This is like in the mid '90s, whatever. Wrestling was so big here that kids would just start wrestling at the back of the class, like literally just start just wrestling like with so we have like these I guess tiers of schools here. So we've got the higher end schools and then the stuff like trash government schools, right? So I was put in the government school and it was just basically a wasteland there. So the teacher would be like at the front there teaching the kids who actually want to learn, and then at the back there there'll be these kids that are just wrestling and nobody gives a fuck. It's stupid. Yeah, wrestling was huge here. Triple H, The Rock, X Pac, all this stuff.
Yeah, that was the golden era. Like that was the WWE's best time. Is the late '90s, early 2000s. Like the Stone Cold Steve Austin. I guess they call it the Attitude Era now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I don't follow WWE anymore, but I'm a huge fan of AEW. I watch it every week with my grandmother. Like every Friday night since I've been back in Alabama, I drive to my grandma's house and we watch wrestling.
I wasn't actually much of a wrestling fan, to be honest. But I only have like a surface, like understanding of it. But normally, like when conversations start to go into wrestling, I kind of like just sort of sit it aside and just listen. Not really much of a fan.
No, it's a weird thing, but it's interesting because like if nobody has heard of Pluto Nash, nobody's heard of Nash Bridges, but you're getting the Kevin Nash reference. I'm like, there must be some semblance of wrestling culture there. And I know that it's like like the WWE is extremely popular, like in weird places that we don't really think about here in the States. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I can say as a person who's like not really that much into wrestling, I watch this stuff because it's funny. I just find it hilarious to like, sweaty men just molesting each other.
It's a serious sport, and everyone competing is taking it seriously. It's silly, and that's what people like about it. There, like it is so silly. And you can play around with the there's not a lot of sports where a guy can like reach in his pants and pull out an invisible fake grenade, and then like the announcers start talking in slow motion as he tosses it, and everyone cheers, like the crowd goes fucking wild. Like that doesn't happen in your other sports entertainment things. So
exactly. And like I know it's fake, and yet I still like I know it's fake, but then when I look at it, I'm like, oh my god, like does it not hurt, and then just start laughing because I know it's fake. It's all acting, and
there's a lot of it is acting, but like you can't fake a 20-foot drop. Like there's real pain there, man. Like look at was it Mick Foley? Like look at that guy. And tell me wrestling doesn't fuck you up really bad, because it totally does. But
sure, of course.
But anyway, that's enough of my wrestling rant. I got to do that at least once a month, I think.
It's cool.
So as a game designer, what are some of the things going around right now that you find particularly interesting? Like what's the trend in your world that you think is worth following? What are some games that you're excited about?
I noticed that as there's this like a resurgence of like the immersive sim genre, So like I feel like eventually, I mean, real soon, we're gonna start seeing like all right. So there's the retro revival, right? Where you've got these God, I hate saying this word, but you've got these boomer shooters going on right now, retro style, shooters. And I feel like the trend is gonna start shifting towards like immersive sims, stuff like System Shock and Ultima Underworld and stuff like that. Even stuff
Deus
like
Ex.
Thief, like Gloomwood, Deus Ex, yeah. So I feel like we are gonna start seeing like a lot of these imsim games, more like immersive sim style retro games being made. I feel like that's gonna be a huge thing, this year and the next. I feel.
I'd say our litmus test is Gloomwood.
Yeah, exactly. Gloomwood will be the litmus test. I love that shit, man. Just picking up stuff, rummaging around things in the menus and stuff. It's fun.
Also, Core Decay, because eventually Three Realms is going to come out with Core Decay, and I have a lot of faith in Ivar specifically. Like he's just such a when you talk to him about it, when you like really get in his head about like what he's planning here, I'm like that sounds exactly like what I want. And now that I think about it, also Night Dive's doing the System Shock remake, which will probably also be a huge like market test. Like how well does this go? And if those three projects come out really good, I'm certain that the indie community will follow suit and like be like, hey, there's something to do there that's really interesting, like, and get a lot of people excited. But I also think that businesses will be more likely to invest in that sort of thing if they see a positive market, a response.
And I really think it's gonna get there because even stuff like Deathloop, and Ghostwire, like I feel like it's very imsim like I feel like it is getting there, sort of, But like you said, we'll see how these Core DK and stuff, like we'll see how those perform, and yeah, I'm stoked.
I think RTS is coming back.
Oh yeah, RTS,
like
Command and Conquer style, Warcraft.
Yeah, Frozenheim is a good example of like, it's one of Hyper Strange's games, and I am nuts about Frozenheim. I mean, like it'll glue me to a chair for 8 hours for sure. In fact, I think I spent the entire night before I was going to fly. Yeah, you should please. The entire night that I was supposed to fly to Denmark last summer was I couldn't sleep, obviously, so I spent the whole night playing Frozenheim, and it's awesome. It's still early access, but I have a lot of faith in it, and I'm a sucker for all things like Vikings and all that kind of shit. So,
Frozenheim. Oh, this looks good.
And then
I'm kicking myself for missing this.
Oh, it's you can't possibly catch everything. A lot of the stuff I'm bringing up are things that like I know the people that are working on it, so I'm particularly interested. But It Stares Back is also looking really, really cool. That's art.
Oh yeah,
Art,
It Stares Back.
Light Studios. I don't like Light Art Studios. That's what they're called. Ran by Cleveland, who is he's also somehow affiliated with Dread XP, but I don't think that the Dread XP is publishing that game, as far as I know.
It Stares Back. I remember seeing this on it was an RD last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we rolled a trailer for it for sure, because I also interviewed Cleveland as part of it. He was one of the like mini interviews that we did.
The artwork in this game is crazy, dude. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really fun to play. I've gotten through the early access of it, and I can't wait for more content. But it's so unique because it's got like subtle RPG elements to it. Like imagine in Command and Conquer if you're like upgrading your tanks and that kind of thing, but you're doing it in a sort of like RGB analogous way. What am I saying? RGB. God.
RPG.
If we're doing it, it's all going to be in red, green, and blue, and you're going to have to plug in your XLR cables to unplaying. That's not true.
Yeah, but I get you.
I've been awake for too long, but it's actually. Do you mind if I go get another cup of tea before we continue to have word salad coming out of my mouth?
Sure.
Okay,
Please
little
do.
break.
Yeah.
So now that I'm back from my break,
Yes.
while I was making the tea, I was waiting for it to, pour the water into the cup, and I went and enjoyed myself a nice outdoor wee. So I just want to let Donkey, if he's listening, know that yes, it is epic. So there's this show, this old British comedy show called, I think, Bruiser. It was a lot of the same people who were on Peep Show, if anyone's ever seen that. But they had this segment in the show called Outdoor Wee. And it's just like, they would just be like two guys walking down the street, and they're like, hello and welcome to another episode of Outdoor Wee. And then they would just conduct an interview about, this person's life while they're both taking like an uncomfortably long piss against a tree or something like that. It's just,
I need to check that out.
yeah, I'll send you a video of it if I remember after this, but what a conversation starter. That's real freedom. That's freedom. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
The stars above you, the wind blowing, hopefully not towards you. Anyway, back to you and your contributions to the world.
Right.
So we're talking about RTS and that kind of thing. So you're currently experimenting still in like first person shooters, and you're working in Resident Evil kind of stylish, like almost walking sim style of a game. Are there any other genres that you see yourself like maybe trying to jump into at some point during your years long career to come?
I would definitely want to do a JRPG, like like classic JRPG style games, and side scrollers, Metroidvanias. These are the two genres that I really, 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 really love, and I definitely see myself using another engine, of course. Doing these two particular style of games. Yeah.
So
no plans currently. I do have I have these other engines installed as well. I do think I mess around with like a platformer game, but no solid plans for now. But yeah, it's gonna come out eventually.
Well, let's speculate on what your RPG would be like. Do you have any idea about the theming, or like what you'd want to accomplish with it? How big you might want to go? Because let me tell you, RPGs are really, really, really big. Like, it's a long process, and Call of Ragnar is a pretty on rails, straightforward kind of game, and it's not truly really an RPG. But God, RGB. I'm sorry, I have to correct myself here. It's a RGB. So I realize these how massive of a scope these RGBs can be. I'm a little tipsy right now, so but you'll have to forgive me. It's okay. I'm sleep deprived.
Anyway, so RGBs. I mean RPGs. This I realize those can be really the scope of those can be crazy. I feel like if I ever do make one of these, JRPGs, it's probably going to be one of those, really, bite-sized kind of stories. Nothing too massive. No, no, metaphysical, time travel, god killing shit or whatever, and just simple stuff. But yeah, I don't really have any stories in mind yet. It's more of like I'm more interested, I guess, from a engine perspective, like making battle systems and dialogue systems and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. It might end up just being something I just mess around with on the side, and I don't actually, nothing really comes out of it.
I really envision eventually working on a massive RPG, not because I feel like it's such a beast to tackle. Like, it's an accomplishment that I'd like to say I have under my belt. And I really, really love writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's probably my favorite game related thing to do as far as contributing to the team, other than, project management like that. You're part of the dev team, but are you really a dev? Not necessarily. But I mean, the idea of writing for an RPG, like a true like branching stories and all that kind of stuff is mouth-watering. Like, just, I know it would be terrible, and I'd probably be pulling my hair out, come game time. But the feeling of accomplishment you must have at the end of the day, if you've like successfully written such an amazing thing, like if you'd written Fallout New Vegas or The Witcher 3, even to be on the writing team for something like that would, holy shit.
I have massive for Fallout New Vegas. And I agree. I have so much respect for the writing team. Chris Avalon and Joshua Scheuer. Yeah, it will be a dream to be able to. I wish I had like even 10% of the writing skills there. It is good shit.
Yeah, my little cousin, she's a teenager now, but she really, really wants to be an author one day. And we were talking today. She's kind of in that, like, what am I going to do when I grow up? Like, I don't know how to make money as an author. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to give you any false pretense here and say that like your novel that you've been working on for 10 years is going to sell enough money to justify the work you put into it. Like that, it takes a lot of time, a lot of networking, and a lot of, business sense, I'd say, to get to that Stephen King level of writing, or that J.K. Rowling level of writing. But in conversation, though, it did come up to my mind. It was like, there's a lot of writing to be done in the video game industry, kid, like, or in the film industry or in the television industry. Like, don't bottle yourself up into like one thing. Like your novel can still be your novel, but it doesn't have to be the way that you make all of your money. And that's also true of games, for sure.
Exactly. Well, I think you could start it off with writing for small games. I feel like maybe that'll be a good start for her.
Yeah. Like, I'm just thinking about Stellar Valkyrie. Like, there have been absolutely no major changes to the plot whatsoever since we initially sat down, made it up, and they were like, all right, this is the outline is the outline, and it's not going anywhere. But a very simple thing can dramatically change a scene. Like, you could have written, an entire 2 or 3 pages of scripting for 2 voice actors to read, and if a simple little change can cause you to rewrite that entire thing. And so, what I'm imagining, like on something like the Witcher 3 scale, how that would play out if someone's like, oh, we're doing something a little bit different later on or before this or whatever, and like you have to change the entire context of a conversation. I'm like, no, fuck. But also like, yeah, that sounds like real writing going on. That sounds like, you hear these stories like people who write for like comedy shows, like sitcoms and stuff like that. I think News Radio is one that I've heard a lot about because Joe Rogan talks about it from time to time, but how the entire writing staff would, be up until the wee hours of the morning all together, like going over like, okay, and then we do this and then we do that, and just basically getting wasted from the way he describes it, but just tapping into the ultimate level of team creativity. That just sounds so addictive and so inspiring.
Hell yeah. I can definitely say that writing is definitely not something that I am able to like do. I would definitely see myself like hiring writers for for serious stuff in future. So yeah, to anyone who's listening, if you're a writer, maybe we can be friends or something.
Yeah, DM's open. Also follow
DM's
Nash
open.
on OnlyFans.
Oh God.
So, do you? You've talked about this a bit. You were alluding to it, but hiring mappers and hiring potentially writers. You seem like you've got music under control, but at some point, maybe you're going to end up kind of project managing teams. And like, do you envision yourself one day kind of becoming like a career project manager, or just doing that more?
I would love to. Eventually, like I want to sort of like I guess like slowly step away from the technical work and focus more on like business and project management and stuff like that. But I mean, it's still I have so much more to learn, and I'm slowly learning, and yeah, but I definitely do see myself like just stepping away from coding or whatever eventually, and just sort of be like an overall, like a game designer, like just oversee stuff
Yeah,
with
a
minimal
director.
amount of work, yeah, director, yeah, kind of like you, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, I'm not a director. That's not my title. I'm technically like producer, project manager. Like that's kind of where it ends. I guess with In the Keep, I can kind of like wear multiple hats and step in and step out kind of how I please because I own it. But what I get paid to do is not to direct things. Oftentimes, like Combustion, for example, it's like Frederick Strom is the director, and I am there to essentially just support his creative view. And I think that's a key difference with something like Stellar Valkyrie. In many ways, I am part of the creative force driving that game. Whereas and I'm not saying that I don't try to contribute some creative stuff, but it's very important to me that you want to be a producer. Do you want to be Bob Rock or do you want to be Rick Rubin? And to me, I'd rather be Rick Rubin. I don't want to be playing bass for Metallica. I want to be helping Metallica make the best album that Metallica can make. Like that's where it's at. Not that I wouldn't want to play bass for Metallica. I'm just saying, like, the producer's role is not to try to be in the band. The producer's role is to help the band be the best band they can be.
Help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, different dynamics.
So less hands-on stuff. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. But I mean, you may have that opportunity because you're getting in on the ground floor really with Hellforge. I mean, you're coming in early. You've got like 2 projects that I'm aware of, already kind of being discussed as something that are going to be published, and one of them that already is on the website at least. So, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe 20 years from now, you and Bridgeburner are sitting on your yacht.
That would be the dream.
Yeah. And Arlene's tallying away at your profits, and you're all just sipping on martinis. I don't know. But is that something that you aspire towards, or is it all just really altruistic?
Not
having a yacht necessarily.
No, definitely not a yacht. Of course, sure. Eventually, I just see myself. Well, you know what? The funny thing is, I don't think I'll be like doing this until I get old. I don't see myself like.
Grandpa's making video games.
Industry. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, I will get super tired of computers and stuff. I do sometimes, even now. But yeah, I really would love to like step away from like you said, like I don't want to be in the band anymore. I just want to help the band.
I have this real, like, almost a problematic tendency to like look at people's talents and try to like in my brain figure out how can they turn that into what they do for a living. And it's not always welcome. Like, for instance, there are people like Arlene who are very, very strongly like, this is my hobby. I like, to have my job and my hobby separated. Like, and I totally like cognitively understand that. But I'm the kind of person in my head where if I love doing something, I want to spend as much time as humanly possible doing it. And I really, really hate like going into the office and feeling like it's a waste of my time because I could be elsewhere creating things that I care about. And I've been very lucky to not fall into that now. But
yeah,
you have so much to that you've already contributed. Like, I can't imagine how you wouldn't be successful if you took that next step into turning this into a business. You're one of these great minds around, like, just in the small community that we interact with. Like that guy's really he's got something special. He's got something going on in his head that's it's a step above, a cut above the rest. So try it. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I will. I do. I would love to like start, like my own, like a proper, like game company and stuff. That is definitely on the table, but it's just like, like I'm so new. Like, I don't really know like how am I going to get there yet? But hopefully with these games I'm currently making, I would be, like led into opportunities that will help me learn and, help me reach that goal eventually.
Yeah.
So
Networking is everything, man. And
exactly.
I can't stress that enough to anybody listening who's like trying to figure out like how to be successful. Step one, know other people who have similar drive to you, like other people who are driven to work towards similar goals to what you're working for. High tide raises all ships, in my opinion. Like,
I'm unfortunately I do have to admit that at one point I felt like kind of I wanted to be like this like lone wolf kind of like, just do my own thing, and I learned that like after like a few years that it's not gonna work.
a lot of developers are like that, and it's just so it's one of those Achilles heel kind of things where if people don't appreciate the work that marketers do and can do for them, then they're likely not to be very successful unless you just get lucky.
Yeah. And like it's unfortunate because like some of the developers or games that I look up to, like I'm probably only seeing it like from a surface level, but my perception is like talking with people like what's this guy's name, the Stardew Valley guy, or the Death Trash guy. I'm sorry, I don't remember the names. So I mean, from my perception is like they're mostly working like on their own, like at least in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So these kinds of things like sort of influence me, like starting out like, I want to make my own game, I can do this alone, and then as years went on, I'm like, oh shit, I think I better start networking.
But yeah, even Stardew Valley, right? Like it didn't market itself. It didn't port itself to consoles. Like at some point he had a conversation with someone who was going to step in and help him out. And that's cool.
Yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with being a solo dev. There's something wrong with thinking that you're going to make your game exactly like you want it and just put it out quietly and not say anything. And it's just going to take off. Like that's, to me, a not impossible, but very unrealistic way to approach it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why, when Bridge Burner approached me, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And then, I joined, the Realms Deep server, and, spoke to you and stuff. I feel like it's more productive, and like I feel like this is the direction I should have gone the whole time. Would have like advanced me like probably 2-3 years. Like I would have made more progress had I started this thing much earlier in terms of networking and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my one kind of, I don't know what it is, but like given talent is that I think I was naturally, I had an aptitude for network building, and it wasn't planned. It just kind of happened organically. But like I said, I'm always thinking about like, if someone's like, I need blah, 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 whatever for this thing that I'm trying to do. And I'm like, oh, I know a person who's like exactly what you're looking for. And if I can be any part, just connecting people, like Realms Deep has been such a blessing, that whole thing. But yeah, being able to bring people together to like accomplish their goals and like further themselves and better themselves, or, whatever it is, like for me, like that's what keeps me going. I love that. I love that feeling of the guy who knows a guy. Like,
the guy who knows a guy. Yeah.
But what's his name from Pulp Fiction? The Wolf. I solve problems. That like I want to be like that.
but see, the thing is, like I am generally a like I'm actually a bit kind of a shy person, to be honest. So like working with people, it's a very like it's not natural. It doesn't feel as natural to me. So I have to put in like extra effort, like to do it. So that is one of the difficulties I I face sometimes, like in terms of like like collaborations and stuff, like
Yeah.
because like I want to do things a certain way, and then like I'm not sure how the other person's gonna respond to me, so it's an internal thing that I'm constantly trying to improve upon. So, but it's gotten a lot better recently than before, because before I just want to just do stuff like my own way, which is not healthy at all. Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily. There's got to be a degree of that. Like you do have to have unilateral control over your thing that you're making, like whatever it is. We see what happens when there is no unilateral control over the creativity of a game, or like when a studio pulls out midway through and you got to switch the whole thing to someone else. Like it can cause a lot of rifts. The purest and best games tend to come from a singular creative vision. And that may be with lots of contributions from other people, but I think that there's always a better product when the person whose idea it was is involved throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm. And
so there's nothing wrong in my mind with you saying like I like to do things my way. There's as long as your team is there to support you and they have that mindset and that they're supporting your vision, then it's not a problem. It's only a problem if you're like I don't want to do this anymore midway through, and then you have like a lot of money invested in it, so other people are incentivized to continue, and then they lose that sight, and then the writing comes out, and it's the person who's now taken over the story has a completely different take on it than what you intended or something like that. Yeah. It's a cascade effect.
Yeah. You sound like there have been experiences like
I wouldn't even, it's never happened to me.
Okay.
But I have seen this happen. I mean, you just pay attention to the games industry period. I mean, it happens all the time where like System Shock 3, right? What the fuck happened to that game? And there's a lot of examples like this.
True.
When someone just like loses the will midway through what was originally their brainchild, like that can be really not good. You could even go so far as like not even midway through a game, but like a franchise. Like you could have a completely different take on a franchise because Fallout New Vegas is a great example. It's like, and that was a good example, right? Like where they actually did better in many people's estimation than the team that usually would work on those titles. It's not always bad. It's good to have like different people take a stab at stuff and see where they can go with it, but there's a big difference between Fatal Frame and Fatal Frame 5.
Sure.
Or the difference between the first Resident Evil and Resident Evil 8 or 9 or whatever the fuck now.
7
like,
and 8.
Yeah. It's completely
gone first person and stuff.
And I have no issue. Like it's cool that we're seeing a different take on it, but the purity of what is originally there, changes. And we could have the same argument about Doom too. Like it just changes over time. Different people get their hands on something and they do different things with it. So you don't want that to happen midway through a game, like ideally.
Yeah, that would that would be a complete disaster. I do have to say, like, it is kind of, I don't even can begin to understand like how someone would just like midway through just decide to like, fuck this, how could you do that, like to like something you're so passionate about?
Okay, so you formed your Nash Game Studios, right? And you guys are you accept a contract from a bigger company that's like, hey, would you like to make the next insert game franchise here, right? And you're like, hell yeah, that sounds amazing. What's what were we talking about money wise? And then like they show it to you and it looks good and you're like, all right, we're gonna do it. It's gonna make us a lot of money and we can take that money and put it towards our working on the game that we want to make. Okay, cool. It's a good business decision. And then they don't own up to their end of the deal and it ends up in like development hell for like, the better part of a couple of years or something like that. And then everybody's not getting paid. And then you're just like, fuck this shit. You pull out, you don't do it. Like, why would you? And
Right.
this happens all the time.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, not with the good studios who treat people well, but it definitely happens. And imagine working on like something like Cyberpunk, man. Yeah, imagine.
Oh yeah, dude, that is wild. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you stay because you're like, oh, I want to see it through, or do you walk away because it's like, I don't want to work 14 hours a day and never see my children and not get paid enough for it? Like, fuck that. No. And then you end up with a subpar product. And end of story.
And it's sad that these things aren't even like in your control. Like, it's not like you could know these things in advance. Like, it's kind of a gamble when I think about it. I feel like these things could happen to like unknowingly, especially for like inexperienced, like new devs like me. Like let's say I get a publishing deal and stuff, and I'm like, like looks good, and then at first it's okay, and then like a few years later, all these things start happening, and there's no way for me to like know this like 2-3 years in advance, So it's kind of scary when I think about it. Like,
imagine you're like, I don't know, a couple million deep and multiple years into a game, and then like your lead creative person just dies. Like, how could you replace that? I get mad at Dangerous Dave, man, because like I need him to be the best programmer in the world, and he rides his motorcycle around, and like I'm never gonna tell him, don't do that. It's not my place. But I worry, if he's like, I'll be there in an hour, and then I don't hear a text from him. I'm like, God damn it, did he wreck his motorcycle? Is he dead? I'm like, my life is gonna change. I'm not even worried about his safety. I'm just worried about how it's gonna affect me. I'm kidding, but.
But yeah. That is exactly the what I mean. Yeah.
But when it works, hey, it works, and
yeah.
Whew. Do
we have any more questions? Like
from the fans,
Patreon or whatever?
I can look through. I don't think there were any more specifically about you. Donkey wanted to hear more about the GZDoom GPL. He said it was like, it's important work, but he didn't have any questions. He's just like, I'd just like to hear more about it. And I don't know. Is that something you can dive into?
There's not much into it, actually. It's just basically all it was just removing, like copyright infringing code, stuff like from the sound system, Fmod, it's a commercial sound system. So we gutted it out and replaced it with OpenAL. Remove the build engine code that was in there. That's about it, basically. Not much else to it.
Well, then there you have it, Donkey. I do think about how dramatically you're saying, like, oh, that was like really not a big deal. It was like, but it just dramatically changed a lot of people's lives, man. And that's kind of where we started the conversation. So I guess we can close it with that too. But the work that you and that team have done have just really, really touched a lot of folks.
I'm happy.
That's it. I guess where I want to kind of like leave it off is to say, like, well, I guess to ask at this point, like you spent 20 years and you've contributed so much to everything that you've done so far. Right. And do you feel like you can hang your hat on that, or do you feel like your career will not be accomplished without everything that we've discussed about, like potentially going into business about it and all that, and seeing some of these ideas you have through?
I feel like for me, this is probably like just being really naive, but I would be content to like quit. Well, not quit, but then like sort of just slow down. Just by putting out like my first 2 games, like these Darkadia and Disdain,
Yeah.
Of course, I want to take things, like bigger, but I think it's going to be like a huge gap. Like after I ship my first 2 complete games, I kind of want to like take a really, really long I want to really think about how I want to move next.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do more games, but yeah, like I said, I'll be doing this like for at least another 10 years, and there's a lot that can happen in 10 years.
Well, I guess the only proper thing to do is like, let's wait until you get Darkadia and God damn it, Disdain out.
Disdain.
And
Yep.
yeah, and then check back in and like see how you feel then, because I feel like once you've got that behind you, you'll be able to like see the road a little more clearly, or like you said, take a step back and decide, what's next for me.
Because who knows? Like by that time, I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be a model on OnlyFans instead. Who knows?
Or a dad, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of reasons why people want to walk away. So, thank you for everything that you've done and for being an excellent guest and patient with me. Because it's kind of late here. It's like 11:30 and running on fumes.
You're welcome, and thank you for staying up and doing this with me. Time zones can be a bitch, but yeah, I'm glad we made it work somehow.
Yeah, like I said, let's do it again, brother.
Yes, hopefully with more games to talk about.
Where can people find you?
Right, so you can follow me on Twitter, Nash Muhandes, on YouTube as well, Nash Muhandes. Basically, anywhere there is social media, the handle will always be Nash Muhandes. It's the same everywhere. So yeah, come on in, check out my stuff.
I'll link to your Twitter and I guess hellforgestudios.com where Darkadia is, and if you have anything else, just send it to me after this. But I'll try to make sure it's there for people to click on in the article and in thekeep.com too. So thanks, man.
Sure.
Mwah. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Nash for being such an awesome guest. I'm honored to have gotten to spend this time with him and pick his brain. It's a 20-year fucking veteran of programming for fucking Doom, dude. Who knew? Holy cow. I didn't even know that. I had no idea before we dived into this, and that's one of the things that I really value about the podcast in general, is that I get the opportunity to learn about people and how they get to the places they are. They're not just this shrouded mystery once it's done, and I'm happy to try to share that with you guys. So like, yeah, for real, thanks for listening. If you're all the way at this part and you're listening to me ramble at the end, gotcha. Make sure you're following Nash on Twitter or wherever, and keep up with Darkadia. You can find more information about it over at hellforgestudios.com. And we'll wait for more news on Disdain. Hopefully next time I have Nash on, we'll catch up on it and see where he's at. The music that you're hearing right now is actually from the soundtrack to Disdain, so that's promising, right? At least the soundtrack's dope. Just a subtle reminder here at the end that you can go play the Call of Sir Ragnar demo right now. It is on Steam and itch.io. Hit that wishlist button. Let us know how you feel about it. If you're a content creator, let us know if you're going to make content about it. And who knows, maybe I'll show up for it. Streams and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's the call to action for this week. Make sure you're getting in on the Call of Sir Ragnar while it's hot. Because, yeah, that demo is a small little snippet of what's to come. So much more planned. And I can't wait to share it with you all. But for now, I love you. The Drowned God Cathal loves you. Till next time, stay in the keep.